All right, this next one comes from two people. Two people asked this separately, so I want to give them both love. Jay Yao 35 and Ryan Hooper both asked about your opinion on your 2K player ratings. So, Dunk, I don't know if you've seen these yet, but I've got some of them up that I want to get your opinion on. The first and probably most notable one, we shared this on our social media, is that you're a 90, I believe, 3-point shooting, which puts you in the top 5. You're tied for third with Joe Harris and Seth Curry. How do you feel about that?
I think that's reasonable. I think it's growth, if you will, from Ronnie 2K. I mean, mind you, I was the worst player in the game, the entire game, my first year. I believe I was a 67 overall, and the next closest was 69. So it wasn't even like I was a point off. Which
we talked about with Kenny, and he agreed. He agreed that he didn't love that. He didn't love that, which I appreciated.
Yeah, so I've taken that slander, and I've learned from it. Maybe that could create a roadmap for a particular airline that we've recently alluded to. Not to rehash the American Airlines stuff. Just kidding. American Airlines, you're doing great. But I started at 67. I think now what? I'm a 78 overall.
77, I believe.
Oh.
According to a 2K rating site that I'm looking at.
So 77 seems a touch low. Honestly, I would love 70, 79. I think that's pretty fair. If I have a good start to the year, maybe bump me to 80. I'm a stone's throw from 80. But yeah, I mean, 90, I'll take tied for third for sure. I mean, of course, the competitive side of me thinks that I should be right up there with anybody, but it's a video game, and Steph Curry probably deserves to be number one. I imagine Klay Thompson's too?
I believe so.
And then the three of us are kind of clumped in there at number 3. So I think it's a fair assessment at this point. What I don't love about 2K is how I move in 2K. I think they just do a really bad job of simulating how I am as a player. Like, I sprint and shoot my shots, and like when I'm playing, I haven't played with myself in 2K in a long time, but when I haven't played 2K in a long time, but when I play with myself, I like lumber up and down the floor.
Yeah, you got a little waddle to you too.
And I'm like really slow moving, and like I can't even get open, which is like, it's kind of my thing, is like I'm able to get open. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It doesn't, like, the gameplay doesn't translate.
Wow. Okay, fair enough. Well, look, this is just 3-point shooting. I got a couple other things I want to ask you about here. You've got 90 hands. Hands are a 90.
That seems right.
Yeah. I think that seems about right. So these are positive things. You got 90 shot IQ, which I also think is probably about right. You seem to be intelligent with your shot selection.
I mean, I know my strengths, and I try to play to them.
How about this? 85 intangibles, which is pretty strong. Now, I'm not entirely sure what intangibles covers. Maybe this is off court. Maybe this is, voice, way you dress. I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe it's a loose ball. Maybe it's a batted out rebound. Maybe it's a deflection. All those things. I think those are the intangibles. Do you put your fingerprints on a game? I think it's a good depiction of where I stand. I really do.
All right, I'm done with the positive. Let's get to some of the bad ratings. And some of these I disagree with. I just want to be clear. For instance, your help defense IQ is a 50, which is red. That's bad. And I actually think you do a pretty good job of being in the right spot. We've talked at length about how your on-ball defending maybe sometimes isn't the strongest, but I'll tell you what, you always seem to be in the right position. So the 50 defensive IQ, I don't love.
Yeah, I don't love that either. I would definitely push back on that one. I don't know what my overall defensive rating is, but I would argue that my help defense raises my defensive ability, not brings it down. So unless I'm below a 50 defensively, oh dear, am I?
So get this, you're 47 defending, but dear. Your highest defending rating is lateral quickness, 65. That's bringing all boats up. All boats rise with a 65 lateral quickness.
But what I'm curious about is, like, you gotta provide some context. So, like, where do I fall amongst other players? Because it's like maybe 65 is legitimately the worst in the league.
Sure.
I don't know.
No, these are fair questions. Let's just, who do we want to use as a comp? Let's how about we go to Moritz Wagner?
Yeah, sure. Just a random NBA player. There you go.
Yeah. Just
Somebody that we have no personal
Yeah.
ties or connections to.
His lateral quickness is a 47. So do we think
There
that
you go.
you're moving a lot more quickly laterally than he is?
I mean, I'm sure Mo would definitely dispute that, but I think it's right where it needs to be.
Or maybe we quickly move over to like a Pat Connaughton.
Love it.
You know, who's
His is going to be higher. I mean, his is going to be.
He's a good
going to
defender.
be in the 70s, 80s.
74. So I'll tell you what, 65 is not great, but it's not that far behind a 74.
I'm after this, I'm going to get off my soapbox. But I think that the Ronnie 2K stuff and like so much of that is just arbitrary. Like he makes a decision on, okay, the overalls, who's better than who and who's better than whom. Sorry for all you English majors out there. And then he just finds ways to get me to a 77. So he picks like my main attributes, my shooting, this, and this, and then he fills out the rest of the puzzle from there. It's got to be because it doesn't make sense. My hands are a 90. So it raises me from a 76 to a 77. It's got to be.
Sure. And the intangibles, I think, is probably a perfect example of that. All right. I'm kind of done with this, but let's go two more just because I want to address them. Strength is a 35, which is embarrassingly low.
The disrespect.
Pass vision is a 35. Another one that I really disagree with. You're very good at coming off that handoff, the dump down, the over the top. You're throwing lobs. I think pass vision should be higher.
Look, this episode has been all about accountability, and now I'm gonna hold Ronnie 2K accountable. Ronnie,
yes,
we gotta watch some more game film. It's just as simple as that, and it's not even about me. I wouldn't even the thesis of my argument would not be about me. There's so many examples of 2K just not doing their due diligence. Not to sound like one of those like haters, because I know everyone's out there doing their best, but accountability is important.